home alone with her toddler son, 37-year-old Martha Bryce's worst fear comes true. She suffers a second terrifying grand mal seizure. The moment she comes out of it, her first and only thought is for her child.
I immediately looked for my son, who was in the same place where he had been when I had been eating the breakfast sitting down, and he was fine.
The doctors had told us all along, one seizure can be an isolated incident. If you have a second one, the game changes.
I knew now that I had had a second seizure, that something dramatic had changed, and I was very concerned.
Phil races home from work and drives Martha to the closest emergency room.
This was serious. What might happen if she was driving? What might happen if she was in a supermarket? What might happen in all of the different situations that she could be in with our son?
The on-call doctor immediately orders a battery of neurological tests. But like before, they reveal nothing. Perplexed, doctors admit Martha overnight in hopes that a specialist can find the critical clue they've been missing.
I was very concerned, and I knew somehow there were more answers to be found, and I was desperately looking for them at this point in time.
The next morning, cardiologist Dr. David Lomnitz goes over Martha's medical file with a fine-tooth comb and comes up with a radical new theory. He suspects that the problem isn't Martha's brain at all, but rather her heart. His next move is to hook her up to a portable monitor so they can get a better idea of what's going on inside her heart.
She needed a monitor so we could see what actually happened to her heartbeat and heart rhythm.
Which is sort of a portable heart monitor that one can wear that records the electrical activity of the heart. And she went and had one put on and went home.
And the startling results from that single night of monitoring change everything.
The very next morning, I received a call, and Dr. Lomnitz said, "I know what's wrong with you."
But while Dr. Lomnitz suspected Martha's heart was the culprit, he can hardly believe the data he's receiving from her portable monitor.
When Martha would eat, she would have a complete stoppage of the electrical current across her heart. There would be absolutely no heartbeat for 5 to 6 seconds.
We were being told that her heart was stopping. I've always thought of that in terms of an automobile engine. What would happen if you were driving along at 60 miles an hour and you turned off the oil pump for 10 seconds in your car? And I think your engine would blow up.
Based on the results of the Holter monitor, Martha was diagnosed with swallow syncope.
Swallow syncope is a rare disorder of the vagus nerve, which controls both heart rate and the digestive muscles. When a healthy individual swallows, the vagus nerve sends signals to initiate digestion. But when Martha swallows, the part of the vagus nerve that goes to the heart misfires and shuts down the electrical system of her heart, resulting in dangerously low blood pressure, which causes her to faint and have seizures.
The vagus nerve is responsible for coordinating the muscle activity within the digestive tract. In Martha's case, unfortunately, the part of the vagus nerve that was going to her heart was also stimulated by the act of eating, and that resulted in a decrease in heart rate. After a few seconds, the blood pressure will start diminishing, and that's when people will start feeling lightheaded. If there's a lack of blood flow to the brain for a long enough period of time, without oxygen, the brain will have a seizure, and that's what happened to Martha.
Everything was falling into place. The seizures and the dizzy spells now made sense as one consistent picture.
The near passing out seemed to be explained very easily by the lack of blood flow to my head during those moments when I was eating.
It's more likely to occur within the first few bites as that vagus nerve is stimulated for the first time.
After a few moments of diminished blood flow, her body would usually self-correct.
My heart was stopping for between 5 to 10 seconds at a time, and then the heart spontaneously starts beating again.
There's probably some inhibition in the brain that sort of adjusts after the first few bites.
But Martha's trick for getting through the episodes may have actually helped to prevent even more seizures.
Patients who feel lightheaded They have a natural instinct to put their heads between their legs. By using gravity to help the blood get to the brain, she can alleviate her symptoms.
The frequent memory lapses were also most likely an indirect result of Martha's condition.
Theoretically, maybe these small cumulative episodes of lack of blood flow to the brain lowered her cognitive function.
But Martha's still unclear as to why swallow syncope seemed to produce no symptoms whatsoever during her pregnancy.
The blood volume is increased during pregnancy. This would allow for more blood to reach her brain. And during pregnancy, women tend to have a higher resting heart rate. The combination of those two probably resulted in an alleviation of her symptoms.
We were finding some answers to what had been going on for so long. I'm very thankful for that.
Although Martha and Phil are relieved to finally have a diagnosis, they can't help but wonder why it took more than 4 years to get one.
Swallow syncope is always going to be a challenge to diagnose for any physician. In medical literature, there have been approximately 50 case reports of swallow syncope. It's so rare that physicians tend not to have come across it, and that right away makes it easy to miss.
And because the disorder is so rare, there's much about it that doctors still don't understand, including its cause.
We're not sure what triggered this condition for Martha.
There was some thought that this was a congenital disorder and that somehow the seizure, had caused it to become worse. But we weren't really sure why it happened.
Although questions remain about the origin of the condition, its potential hazard is life-threatening. Undiagnosed, swallow syncope can be devastating.
If the seizure goes on long enough without breaking, there could be permanent damage to the brain. If you have multiple episodes of seizure activities over a long enough period of time, that can also cause permanent damage to the brain.
Although there's no cure, the debilitating and dangerous seizures can be prevented by installing a pacemaker to jumpstart Martha's heart whenever it stops.
I was very nervous about the procedure.
That was a scary time when I worried that something might happen to her before we could get the pacemaker in.
On January 4th, 2005, she undergoes the surgery, and Dr. Lomnitz pronounces it a success. Today, Martha is symptom-free and back to her old self.
From the first day that I had my pacemaker implanted, I have never had another near passing out episode ever again.
I feel grateful, relieved, and extremely lucky that we are where we are.
I'm doing great today. Working on a daily basis and being with my family and feeling very good.
I've always appreciated my wife. I feel very lucky to be with her. But I think that having gone through this and having felt the risk of losing her,